This video will cover the ins and outs of rest periods between sets. By the end of this video, you will know the correct amount of time to rest between sets to maximize hypertrophy, how to manipulate those rest periods to save yourself both time and effort in the gym, and how to use rest periods to help you bolster your results. As a general recommendation, resting 2 to 3 minutes between sets of compound multi-joint movements and resting 1 to 2 minutes between sets of single joint isolation exercises should be sufficient time for your muscles to locally recover to perform another set. However, this is only a very general recommendation as rest periods will vary quite drastically from person to person for many different reasons. A few of these include how trained you are and what your level of fitness is. If you are less fit, you'll need more time to aerobically recover between sets. How strong and large your muscles are. The bigger and stronger muscles create more damage in any given set as they produce more force than that of the smaller muscles. The more damage taken in any given set, the longer the rest periods will need to be to fully recover in order to perform the next set. How physically demanding the exercise is, meaning how many systems and muscles are actually recruited in order to perform this exercise. The more systems and muscles, especially larger muscles used in an exercise, the longer it will take to recover between sets. So something like a barbell back squat will take a lot longer to recover from than a bicep curl. Knowing all this, how do we know how long to rest between sets? Well, first let's define what adequate rest actually is. Adequate rest would be resting for a long enough period to repeat the amount of reps at our target intensity in this set as to our last. So, if in our last set we did 10 reps of X amount of weights at an RPE of 8, we want to rest for long enough that in our next set we can do 10 or 9 reps of X amount of weights at an RPE of 8 as well. So how do we know if we've rested long enough to perform the next set? Well, we can get a pretty good idea by answering the following questions. Do our muscles feel recovered from our last set? Do they feel less sore? Have we caught our breath from our last set so we can perform enough effort to actually do the next set? Are we psychologically prepared enough to actually perform the whole next set? If you answered yes to all of these questions, you're probably ready for your next set. But what about if we're short on time and we can't afford to rest 2 to 3 minutes between sets? Well, luckily, science has our back here. Before I cover some techniques to save you some time, it's important to know that you shouldn't use these techniques for too long or too frequently. You see, our bodies are very adaptive and reluctant to change. It doesn't take long for our systems to catch up and put in preventative measures to help us or help them negate some of these tricks. So these techniques should not be used too often or for too long. So not for longer than a month or so. Let's get into it. In a previous video, I covered how muscles work and how they recruit fibers during exercise. Essentially, in a set of 10 repetitions, our muscles recruit the slow twitch type 1 fibers at the start of the set and move on to the type 2 fibers towards the end of the set. The type 2 fibers are the ones that grow more, therefore the reps towards the end of the set are what's known as effective reps. It should be noted that these effective reps also accumulate a lot of fatigue, one of the reasons why we can only use these techniques sparingly. If you want to learn more about the rep ranges and which is best for hypertrophy, check out our video on just that. Back to the techniques. So we know the last few reps in a set are more effective. And we know the idea behind a rest period is to repeat the effort in our last set. But what if we shorten the rest periods? Sure, we won't be able to repeat the same effort as the last set, but we will get a similar stimulus for hypertrophy as we'll pretty much get straight into those effective reps from the get-go. Meaning all our reps will have full fiber recruitment and we'll get some great stimulation. Awesome, right? So when we are short on time, we can shorten our rest periods to around 30 seconds or so and still get some great stimulation. Be careful though, this technique is not suitable for most compound or barbell movements as it is simply too risky. It should be reserved to machine work or isolation work. So what does this look like? Well, instead of doing say a bicep curl for 4 sets of 10 reps with a 2-minute break in between, we could do our first set for 10 reps, hitting about an RPE of 8 or 9, then take a 30-second break, knock out a few more reps, take a 30-second break, knock out a few more reps until we get to our acquired 4 sets. Still allowing us to get some great stimulation, but also saving us time in the actual gym. So that's how we can save some time in the gym. We can also use a similar technique to this based on all the same principles to get an effective workout in when we can't use a heavy enough load or weight to achieve the 6 to 14 rep range with an appropriate intensity. The technique we can use is known as myo reps. The way we perform this is by first performing an activation set, This activation set could be at a rep target of your choice, let's say between 20 and 30 reps if we don't have access to heavy weights, and is taken close to failure. After the activation set, take a 10 to 15 second rest and do as many reps as you can at the same weight until failure. Then take another 10 to 15 second rest and perform as many reps as you can at the same weight until failure again. Repeat this process for the desired amount of sets you need to get your training volume. Each set counts as one full hard set of regular training. This is because as we're shortening the rest periods in the previous technique, this technique allows us to get straight to the effective reps, which have a high growth response. This technique can be very useful for when you're on holiday and you don't want to spend the whole time in the gym, or when you don't have access to your usual weight room. That's it for now. Happy training.